All right, in today's lesson, we're going to learn some vocabulary about places. Places. You will also see places. Not fond of that sign. Places is better. So first, we're going to talk about school. You probably already know this one. School. You just clap up and down twice. Not this, because that's paper. Not that, because it's nice. School. Because they applaud you for doing a good job, hopefully. School. The next one is church. So it's like the sign work, but with a C. Church. It's a C that bounces on the back of your hand. Another house of worship with a similar sign, temple. Temple, it's with a T. So if a Jewish house of worship is a temple or a synagogue. And a Muslim house of worship is a mosque. Just like a cross, churches usually have a cross on the top. A mosque will usually have a crescent moon at the top. So that's where that sign comes from. So it's got the big minaret, the tower, where the call to prayer comes from, and then the crescent moon on the top. So mosque. Other places you may go around town is to the doctor. Yes, the doctor is a person and it's an occupation, but at this point we're talking about like a doctor's office. So doctor. So it's a bent hand, taps on the inside of your wrist because they take your pulse. Sometimes some people sign it with a D, doctor. You may also need to go to the dentist. It's kind of an awkward sign a little bit. It's an A hand, palm in, and then the heel of your hand touches the side of your mouth. And it's kind of ooky where this comes from. He gives you a shot. Dentist. Dentist. The orthodontist is the braces dentist. So that's a bent V that goes across your mouth like the braces. That's the sign for braces, and then we sign dentist. But the word is orthodontist. Next we have office. So like this is the sign for room because there's two walls over here and two walls over there. Room. If we put O's on there, it's kind of an English sign, but a lot of people use it. Office. Your textbook says to spell it. Office. Office. So you can go to the doctor's office or the dentist's office to make it a place instead of a person. You might need to go to a meeting. Now we talked about the sign to meet somebody, like it's nice to meet you, but this is you and me meeting. But if you're talking about a whole lot of people coming together in the same place, like in the picture, it's a meeting. There's all the people and they're coming to one location. Meeting. Some places, some different domiciles, places you might live include home. We probably talked about that one before. So it's a flat O where you eat and where you sleep. Home. Home. You may go to a friend's house. So we've learned the sign friend. Friend, we learned that before. House. So friend, their house. Right? We can't just say friend house because your house is not a friend or your friend isn't a house. Your friend is a person. So friend, their house. Or you could like say this weekend we're going to my grandparents' house. Maybe you live in an apartment. Apartment. This started off as finger spelling, A-P-T, the abbreviation for apartment, but now that apartment is a sign, apartment. If you are at a residential school for the deaf, or if you're in college, you might live in a dorm. Dorm. Now that's very similar to the sign for deaf. So deaf, it's your index finger that touches. Dorm, it's this part of your hand that touches. Dorm. Because it's your home, but it starts with a D. Dorm. And maybe after school, you're going to go to the movies. This is from originally when Thomas Edison, who by the way had a hearing loss, created the movie projector. You had to hand crank the film through the camera and through the projector. And so the light wasn't always really steady, depending on how hard you crank, how tired your hand was getting, all of that other stuff. So movies, the light would sort of flicker, and that's why we call them flicks, right? Like Netflix or chick flicks, because they used to be, all movies were called flicks, because the light flickers. So that's the sign movies. Here's a summary slide to go ahead and help you review. Someplace I hope you don't have to go very often or for very long is the hospital. Hospital. Think about the guy in the army, the medic, who helps the soldiers when they get hurt. He wears a red cross on his sleeve so that they know who is qualified to help them, or like old-fashioned ambulance drivers or nurses. So it's kind of an H, but it's not so much an H for hospital. It just shows how wide that big red cross is. Next we have restaurant. Restaurant, so that's an R, palm in on your weak side and then on your dominant side. Looks familiar, doesn't it? Arizona, single, twins, cafeteria. Now we're at restaurant. Next we have the store. Store. I think of a scene from Casablanca where Elsa is walking through the streets of Casablanca, and there's this man, he's trying to sell her these beautiful linen tablecloths. And he picks it up and he says, "Oh, isn't it beautiful?" And he keeps shaking this tablecloth in her face. And meanwhile, her ex-boyfriend shows up and there's all this drama. And the whole time, her and her ex-boyfriend are hanging out. The guy's holding that tablecloth in her face. So that's kind of what I think of. You're showing what you have. Look, see, isn't this cool? Don't you want it? Store. This, in the picture, is a grocery store. You could also have like a clothing store or a video game store or all kinds of other things. Next, we have the park. You spell it, P-A-R-K. This is Central Park in New York. Park. At the park, they might have a playground. A play area is literally what you're signing. Playground. Other places around town include the fire station. So the sign for firemen is like this. Fireman. Because of the way his hat is shaped. There's a very specific design to their hats with that peak at the top so that if something like the roof caves in on them, it'll fall away from them. That's why their hats are shaped that way. But that's the sign fireman. Some people also sign it this way. But the fire station would be the fireman's area or the firefighter's area. There's plenty of women fighting fires out there. So firefighter area. We also have the police station. So here's the sign police. And again, if you wanted to specify police station, you can kind of give it that area sign, police station. And here's another summary slide for you. Now we're headed into our last set of places. We're going to talk about the gas station. Gas station. So here's the side of the car, here's the pump, and you stick it in there and it fills up with gas. Gas station or gas station. Gas station, because it's the store where they sell gasoline. That makes sense. Post office. Post office. P-O. Just like a P-O box. Post office. Post office was traditionally a good place for deaf people to work, and still is. There's still a lot of deaf people employed by the post office because sorting mail and that kind of stuff, there's a lot of loud machinery. It doesn't bother them. Post office. This is a parking lot. Parking lot. So your weak hand is the surface, and that 3 represents cars lined up. Parking lot. Next we have a hotel. So the weak hand's not so important, but it's the horizon. And then I picture like a flag out in front of the hotel waving. Hotel. Next we have the mall. You just spell it. It's a short, easy word. Mall. This is our mall here in Amherst. Mall. Next we have museum. So it's M's, palms out. They come together and then they make a box. That is also the sign for Montana, so that can get a little confusing at times. So museum or Montana. If you wanted to specify, this is an art museum, specifically the Kimball in Fort Worth, but it's a museum. And last but not least, this is a handy sign that I want to make sure you know, errands. Maybe you have to go after school. You're not just going to one place, you're going to lots of places. So you're going to run errands and visit. This is the sign to touch or like to visit briefly. So you're going to go to the post office, you're going to go to the bank, you're going to go to the dry cleaners, you're going to go to the grocery store, you're going to run errands with mom after school. That's our complete list of places, so hopefully you'll be able to sign all the cool places you go. Happy signing!